But actually, on second thought, I think it's important to see the debugging process, because this is what makes good programmers. So let's debug together, right? So in order to debug, you follow the route from the beginning and go, because when there's so much code like this, it becomes quite confusing to see what's what. So very important. So here, every time we send data, we are looking at the data type. There's a data type that we are sending with it, right? So there's an object here and its data type. So what we can do, the first thing we can do is do a console.log for data type. So I'll say obj.dataType, like that. That way I'll know every time a request is sent, what section is requesting something, so that I know where the loop starts from. So if I get back here, it's looping, and it's just looping through get meta. It's not getting anywhere else, just get meta is the only thing being sent, which is weird. Okay, so let's go to another page. Click back. Okay, so get meta is the culprit. So how do we check this? Let's go to where the handle result function, because this is where it is being called. Okay, so when we get here, we are running get meta function. And once we run that, it sends information, and then there's a result which comes here, and then the result goes to handle result. So let's just see if we get to this point. So I'm just going to say console.log, we just say here, just so we know we get there actually. So back forward, we actually don't get there. Oh, there's read first of all, and then get meta, and that's it. It just keeps looping through get meta. We don't even get to that point where it says read. Okay, so back again. So here we don't get there. Okay, so I think what's going on is this. The result of the get meta function does not return proper JSON, so it comes back to here. And then it creates an infinite loop, because then when it comes back here, it still calls this again, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we need a way to stop this from looping from here when we get the wrong result. So this is going to be a tough one to fix. Okay, what I'll do is, let me mute this for a second. I just want to know the result here. So I'll do a console.log of the result right there. Okay, then I can remove all the other stuff I added. Did I add any other stuff? No. Handle result. Okay, I removed that. That's fine. Okay, so we just wanted console.log of what's coming back here. So let me just go forward again. Okay, so this is what we get, which is not a proper JSON object. So I'm getting this, and then we send the right. So we need this to run at least once on a page, this get meta. It shouldn't run many times. Now there's one way we can do that to stop it from running many times, by putting a variable here. We just say get meta is equal to true. Let's set it to true, like that. And then let me grab this. Let's come down here, so that when we run it just once, we set it to false. So here we say if get meta, then let's do the get meta thing, like that. And then once we do it, once we run that, or before we even run it, let's do get meta is equal to false. That way it will run just once, and that'll be it. Okay, so let's come back here and refresh. Okay, so it's run once, and it returned an empty string. Okay, that's good, because getting metadata should only be run once. And then when we change tabs, when we switch tabs, because we are not really refreshing the page, we should tell it to get meta again. So get meta should be reset every time we set tab, like here when we set a tab. So set tab, your changes, get meta should be run at least once. So if we continue and change things here, then we should say get meta is equal to true. That way we can get metadata from the new tab as well. Okay, good. So that's fine. So now this get meta returns an empty string, which is expected because on the other side, which is in the admin section, where is this? We are not actually accounting for it. There's no if statement that deals with the get meta. So this is the post variable. So let's see here. There's save, there's read, but there is no get meta, right? So all we need to do is add it there. So I'll just go here and get one of these else statements, just duplicate that like so, and then just put the get meta here. All right, so if it's equal to get meta, let's do something here. Get metadata for inputs on the tab. Okay, so in order to do this, all we need to do is grab this item, get this course meta. Let's get this here, paste. And then we read. So I'm just going to say rows is equal to course meta, and then we use the where function. In this case, all we want is the course ID, and then course ID will be equal to, we should have an item called course ID here that is sent from the other side. So let's put that there, say course ID. Okay, so if we read those rows, then let's send them back. There's data that we normally send, which is like this, so copy that. Let's shift this back like so. Okay, so we read the data. Oh, so this is data and this is data. Well, shouldn't these be different? Like this should be info or something. What do we send back usually? There's just data, right? And the errors. Okay, no biggie. We'll leave it at that. Let me remove this one though. So data type is get meta, so that we know what to do with it on the other side, and then JSON encode the rows that we get as a result. Okay, cool. That's nice. Now we should only do that if this is a valid array. So we say if, because if it's false, then we may get an error trying to decode that or trying to encode it. And I'll just put this at the top. Say data is equal to, let me just put an empty array, maybe like that. Okay. But then if there are some rows, then we set it to some valid data and then send back this. Okay, cool. This is all we needed. Now let's try and refresh the page. It still gets back an empty string, which is weird. So that shouldn't happen. Where is this if statement though? Okay, so we are on the edit page, that's right. We get back here and row is a thing, that's true. And data type is get meta. Let me just echo something random here and see if I will see it. So let's try again. Okay, so that random thing is here. So which means we are getting to that point, which is nice. And so where is the problem? info data type get meta data. So what is going on? We do have this, so things should be working as intended. No, let me run this down and see where that ends. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we are not doing this echo thing, are we? I guess that maybe that's the problem. No, because we need to echo out the result. So let me click here, see where that ends. Okay, that ends only there. Okay, so it's per page then. I thought there was a universal one down there which I didn't put. So let's echo that info by doing JSON decode, or JSON encode rather. So refresh, and there we go. So we have data which is empty, data type get meta. Okay, at least things are working out fine because we are not getting an empty string anymore. So things are getting back, but they're just empty. So let's see why things are empty, because they shouldn't be. So what I want to return in here instead is I want to return some more info. So let's see what's in here. Course ID. Okay, let me just do show course ID just to make sure that the real course ID is being sent. So I'll refresh, and undefined. Okay, so that's where the problem is. The course ID is coming as undefined, right? So not cool. So where are we messing up? So let's go to courses. When we are doing get meta, we should actually send a course ID here. Yeah, we can't just get meta from nothing. So what is the course ID in this case? This comes from the course. Let's see, how are we getting any course ID here? Nope, it doesn't seem like. Tab name is the thing, not the course ID. Okay, so the course ID never changes throughout the page, because once we load the page, the course ID is always the same. So in that case, we can grab it from our PHP. So if I look at how do we get the course ID is the question. Okay. Let's see what we have used before. I don't want to create new things. I want to see what we have used before. Okay. Send data. You see, the problem here is that the info that's returned here is not valid JSON. So we can't really rely on that. But wait a minute, when we load the course, before we even load the tabs, we should have some PHP going on. So let me see here in the courses view page on the top here, there's add, there's edit. So where is the edit? So edit is right here. This is where most of this happens. So in the edit, we have a row from the PHP side. Now keep in mind that you can get information from PHP by simply echoing it as part of your JavaScript. You can get information from PHP to JavaScript by doing that. So here we are using those functions in the edit section. So which means we have access to this row, which has access to its ID. So if I copy this row and come down to, where is this? Right here, I can actually indeed put just PHP tags in here. Normally I'm supposed to just put a number like course is equal to 5, but because we don't know what that number will be depending on the page, we can simply get it from PHP by just putting PHP tags like so, and then putting ID and close that like that. So why would this work? This would work because keep in mind that PHP is processed on the server side. So by the time this page is loaded into the browser, because this is where the JavaScript will work, this will no longer be PHP, but it will be a number that was echoed from the row in PHP side. So this will just be an integer by the time this code gets to the browser. I can show you that, but let's see if it actually works. Let me refresh. Okay, good. So we did get some results, and it says not empty, but then it's just not loading properly, but that's fine. Now, why did this work? So let's do an inspect here. So let's try, not even inspect, let's just view the page source. So if I go down to look for where it says window, let me do window, there's only one part here. So as you can see, instead of the PHP code, there's an actual number of the course ID. So if I had loaded different course, you see this number here at the top, 5, that's the same number down here. Now, if you want, you can create code instead. If you want to use just pure JavaScript here, to just grab the number from the URL there and put it here. But this works just fine as well. But let's see why the loading process failed here. Let's go down here again and check that out. Where is the handle result? Load inputs. So this one has failed. So data that we returned has failed to manifest properly here. So why? So the way to do things here is, let's just do console.log and check what the data actually is that is being returned. Then we can remove the other console.logs that we added at the top here in the handle result function. Where did we put another console.log? Okay, probably not. Let's just close this one. This is the one, I guess, so that I know what's what. So I'll refresh again, inspect the element, go to console. Okay, so this is what we got. ID. Okay, looks about right. Oh, wait a minute. So it's a string and not an object. Okay, I think the reason is, let's go back to the admin section. Here, when adding the data, I already did JSON.encode, and then I'm encoding it a second time. So I think that's where the problem is. So instead, let's just set it to this and have it encode the whole thing at once. I think this will solve the problem. Let's see. Yes, that solved the problem. Very cool. But still, we're not getting what we want. So let me explain that a little bit more. We were encoding the data twice. So we encoded it once, we changed this rows into a string and added it here. And then we encoded the whole thing in the end, which re-encoded that part which we had encoded again. So it needed decoding twice. So if we remove that one time, then the one-time decoding on the other side should work. I hope that makes sense. But let's see why. This is an array. It's a valid array with valid data. Oh, wait. Seems to be work. Is it? Oh, no. There's a value there. Okay, cool. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 items. Let me see if it loaded. No, it didn't load any of these guys. So why did that happen? Let's inspect again. I didn't check for errors. Okay, so there are no errors. So what's going on? Back to courses view. Also on the send data, I have this console.log for the type. Let me remove that before I forget. And then now I just need to see why things are not working. Scroll down again into the load input. Where is that? Load input. So here there's a valid array and it should loop the same number of times. Let me do console.log data length. Let me see what that will give me. Okay, so there are 4 items, it knows that, which is cool. And then let's see if there's data type. Data dot length dot type. Oh, I see. So it's escaping all of these. It's supposed to be data I like this. Oof. Okay. Yeah, that's because each item has data type. So we're going through each item in the row. So if that data type is not this, then let's ignore it. So I think this time it will work. Aha. Seems to be working, but it only loaded 2 items. So yeah, which is right actually, because if we check the data, only 2 items have student learn there, but the values are not showing. So we do have correctly 2 items, the values are not showing. Why is that? So let me remove this. We don't need that anymore. That is simple because we didn't accommodate that in the add new function. So let's find that add new function. Where is it? There it is. So here we are collecting, what's this? We are collecting the placeholder, but the same way we are using this placeholder, let's use the value as well. So copy this and let's come here to value. Where is value? Now value may not always be there, so it's a good idea because on certain times we are not including it in the object. So what we can do is to check if it exists. If not, then we set it to an empty. So here I'll do this and add a value if none exists. So here I'm just going to say if type of, let's put value here. Okay, so the process in JavaScript is a little bit longer to see if something is defined or undefined. In PHP, it's easier. But if it doesn't exist, what I'm just trying to say is that object.value should be created and set to an empty string like that. So if type of value is equal to undefined, which means it's not a string but it's undefined, then set it to empty. That way we don't have an error if it doesn't exist. Then let's grab this and come to our input and just put value over here, anywhere really. Value is equal to, and then let's paste that. But let's put a $sign like that. Okay, great. This should solve the problem. Okay, very good. Oh, look at that. We got an object instead of the actual value. What is going on? Object, what am I missing? obj.name. Oh, wait a minute. Down here where I sent it in the load inputs, right here, value should be dot value here. Okay, not the whole item. I was sending the whole object and not the value. So let's refresh. Okay, look at that. But they are in the wrong order because we are reading from the ID descending or something. So what we could do is when we are looping through it here, we can loop in reverse. So what I can do instead is say something like, let's see, we can loop in reverse. var I is equal to max. Let's try that. Say max. And then let's do when I is less than 1. Okay. And then let's put minus minus there. Let's see if that works. Oopsie daisy. Doesn't seem like a valid loop. What goes on? What happened? Okay, so there's no error, which means everything is well. So if I is equal to max, let's do an I. So let's say I is equal to 4 here. If I is less than 1, is this true? I is less than 1? No, it's not true. Okay, so I minus minus. Why am I confused about this for loop? Really, let me just click here and create a new one. Okay, so this thing's dot length minus 1. Okay, that's max there. And then greater or equal to 0. Okay, great. So that's what I was missing. Here I should put greater or equal to 0. This is the reverse loop. So I'm just looping them in reverse so that I flip the order of the items. Oopsie daisy. Seems I have made more problems than I could have solved here. What is wrong here? Okay, so length minus 1, max minus 1, okay, greater or equal to, and then I minus minus. This should work, right? Yep. Let's try again. Okay, now it has worked. Cool. Okay, so a reverse loop there to flip because this one was coming down and the other way around. Okay, so there we go. At least items here. Now, how do we show the rest of these items? Simple. Because already this information being received contains information for all of the sectors, we can just do this. If data.length is equal to 0, let's do these guys, which means there's no data completely. Okay, so what we would do is, for all of these guys, let me copy this. Actually cut this and put it here. So if there's no data, just load the normal stuff. Empty values, like so. Okay, great. But if there is data, then we would do this instead. So this is a for loop that has max data.length. Okay, so while we are looping, the students learn will continue. Then I guess we need to loop again down here. So let me just do this. Not very efficient because we are looping many times. We could have just looped once, but actually we can loop just once because looping many times is not so efficient at all. So what I would do is, let me remove the for loops here for the others, so we can use just one loop. Okay, let me not remove the text there, just remove the loops. And then this is the closing part of the loop, so I will move it down here. Then let me move, not leave a space there. Let's push this in, that in. Now, instead of telling it to continue, if this is equal to students learn, then let's do it. So I will move this in like that, so that it's within this if statement. So if it's equal to students learn, then that's when we do this. Otherwise, we move on to the next guy and try there as well. So let me close that. So I'll copy this, put it here, like this. Then put a closing one, push these guys in, do the same here as well. Put a closer, push these guys in. Okay, now we just need to change this to prerequisites. And then whose course? Okay, this should work now. So we are doing one loop and then checking, is this data for students learn? Add it there. Is this for prerequisites? Add it there. Is this for this one? Add it. But of course, we need the value tag as well, like that, and like that. Cool. So back here, let's now refresh. And there we go. So we have our data now. all nice and tucked in. So if I go back to my courses and I click on a course without that data, you see it comes back empty like this. But if I go to my courses and click one with that data, intended learners, and there you see, it has the data accordingly. Now, resaving this data again will be a problem because it will just add to the existing data in the database here. It will just add more rows, which will not be right. So what I want you to do is if I edit this, it should come back here and edit here as well. The only problem is it doesn't know what the ID for this item is. So what we would do is we'll have to delete all of these guys and resave them every time we click the save button. So we delete all of them and then save them again. But instead of deleting and writing, that won't be very efficient for our indexes, because every time you delete a row from a database, the indexes have to be rewritten. So imagine if you have a table with 1 million rows, because these can easily stack up, because for every course we put, there are several of these rows. So this table will be arguably the biggest table. So if I delete a few rows at ID number 100, maybe I delete 50 rows, then the indices will have to be updated, which will slow down your system. So instead of doing that, we'll use a different technique. We'll not delete anything. We'll just disable what we don't like. And then if we need to edit it, we edit it and then enable it again. So I'll show you how we do that in the next video.